For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.
What's going on, guys? Velocity back again with a new episode, some stuff to talk about, NBA Finals, the whole shebang. First, I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of scheduling and Velocity in general. I want to apologize for the inconsistent scheduling. There's been some personal stuff going on that I won't really get into, and some family related stuff. Along with a couple other things, and just causing a bit of inconsistency in the schedule on my end. So I apologize. I hope everyone is well. Family, sports, uh, love, friends, whatever it is, what you got going on. Hope all is well. But now, on a more positive note, I will also kind of get a little bit deeper into all of that stuff another time, just not tonight. But on a more positive note, we do have a spectacular headline to talk about within our podcast here. And if Mr. Sean, I don't know if you want people to know your last name. The floor is yours.
Everyone, like I'm sure, since given you watch our podcast, you guys are sports fans. I'm sure many times you've seen LeBron James on different media posts. Anytime he achieves a new accolade, he always says the kid from Akron made it. Let's just say I emulated that because wait, was it last week? Yeah, maybe like a week and a half ago. I graduated college, Drexel University, out here in Philly, received my bachelor's in architecture. And anyone who knows anything about like architecture, like school generally, it's really tough, but Drexel's program in particular, yeah, they pretty much put us through a mental health crisis throughout our entire tenure out here. But I thrived, survived, and here I'll say the kid from Portmore, Jamaica / the Bronx, New York made it. So to all of you first gen immigrants out there, because mind you, in case you guys don't know enough about me, I myself am a first gen immigrant from Jamaica. You can thrive in the system that is America. And thanks for the support, Ev.
Absolutely deserved. Congratulations. There's nothing more I could say other than you 1000% deserve it, and to bigger and better things as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So, focus. Awesome. So I hope that the next steps you look forward to. I kind of just lost my train of thought, so I just kind of threw a random sentence out there. You already know how I feel. That's great news. Now talking some basketball. You ready for this? We're gonna break down the finals. Now, if I'm not mistaken, before we break down the actual gameplay of the NBA Finals, we both had a prediction. I believe we had a bet on the line.
Yes, we did.
So that's gonna be great. We're gonna find you a wonderful shirt that you could wear at some point.
Yep.
Haven't decided what, but I believe I said the Warriors in 6, if I'm not mistaken. I might have said 5. I think I did say 6.
I think you said 6. Yep.
So,
F got one right.
That feels good. So don't hit me with the freaking 1. I've got more than 1 right. All right. But that was good feeling. I'm not gonna lie to you. After the series was tied 2-2, I was a bit concerned. I did mention 100 times over in that video that I thought experience and being a veteran in the NBA Finals was going to be extremely valuable. And I will say that early on, the Celtics kind of out-physicaled the Warriors, and it showed, and I think the Warriors were a bit thrown off by that. But I think Steve Kerr is actually very underrated because there's so much talent on his team, no one talks about the adjustments he makes. I think he made some proper adjustments, and I think Wiggins, specifically on Jason Tatum, was flawless. Now, with that said, I think that the experience did come to play pretty heavily in games 5 and 6. I think we saw the Celtics absolutely fall apart. Young core group. And I want to say they had a record amount of. It might not have been a record, but I know they had a very high number of turnovers for the NBA Finals. I know more so than most NBA teams, winning or losing, that were in the NBA Finals have had. And a lot of it came in the third and the fourth quarter with a lot of blown leads or even margins that were blown in the first and second quarter, 10-point deficits, stuff like that. So that's really tough to play in. And then as well as if the Warriors are on top of their game and they get up 10 and you're starting to turn over the ball, it kind of comes quick to turn out into a blowout. So that's kind of what we saw was the stupid mistakes that the Celtics committed absolutely killed them, and that's kind of one of the big reasons that they lost was turnovers. Obviously, I have some more thoughts, but you could take the floor while I kind of gather myself.
Yeah, so as you guys probably know from the last video, I had predicted the Boston Celtics winning this series in 7 games because I figured that they were going to keep going back and forth game for game, win for win. And we saw that pattern at first for the first 4 games. But, normally, like Evan knows me when it comes to like basketball and like the results, unlike many of you out there who like claim to really know the sport and know context. I am not one to like, just look at the overall team results and then just, judge an individual based on that. About basketball, it's a team sport. There is a line you draw between how you evaluate an individual versus team. So normally I wouldn't be the one to like, blame everything all on one player. But I said normally the Boston Celtics, they lost this series solely because of Jason Tatum.
Yes.
Like, absolutely. Mind you, even in game 1, where they won that game with that incredible comeback, sure, Jason Tatum had something like 13 assists, but he had like 13 points and like a shot like 30-something percent. The reason why I blame Jason Tatum is this. Mind you, Jaylen Brown, well, he was the best player on the Celtics in this series overall. Even him, he wasn't great, but still, he played decent at best. Let's go. A role player like Al Horford, they actually stepped up like in certain pivotal moments. Like he had a great game 1, even in game 6 in the second half, he came out killing it. As a matter of fact, Jaylen Brown ended it with 34 points that game. In the second half, but Tatum could not find a rhythm at all. He was basically a non-factor in the second half of pretty much every single one of those games, except maybe that one where he had something like 27 points. I don't remember exactly which game that was. It might have been game 4, I think. Yes, and now I'll get into the details. Andrew Wiggins locked up Jason Tatum as number 1. But that's not even the biggest problem that I have. Now, this is where, keen basketball mind really understands what's happening on the court. Jason Tatum was constantly looking to force a mismatch against Steph Curry guarding him on the perimeter, or even sometimes like closer to the basket. And he was getting those mismatches, but not capitalizing on it. Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry were locking up Jason Tatum. Now everybody knows hearing the word Steph Curry locking somebody up, it's just you would think that Jason Tatum is just your average basketball player. Then you are a 6'9" small forward, and you keep hunting that mismatch. And Steph Curry never had a reputation of being a great defender. I will say he's elevated himself to becoming a good defender. Like in the game today, he has improved, but still not to the point where you should be slowing down Jason Tatum, especially on such a size mismatch. Tatum constantly failed to capitalize on that. He was getting shut down by Steph Curry. He could not like find the basket in the second half of the game. As a matter of fact, actually, you brought up a record of turnovers. Jason Tatum himself set the record for the most turnovers in a postseason ever in NBA history for an individual player. He cracked 100 turnovers.
It's too young.
In the second half of games, Tatum was literally on the floor, was useless. And here's the thing too, he really was not getting double teamed. There was really not much help defense on him either. He was straight up being one-on-one covered by the Andrew Wiggins, or Steph Curry would switch on him, and he'd get shut down. The defensive intensity that we saw from him playing against KD in the Brooklyn Nets, I don't know about you, I did not see any of that in the finals. Maybe you should have tried some of that on Andrew Wiggins, because Andrew Wiggins is not the offensive player that Kevin Durant is. But somehow you made Andrew Wiggins look like basically the runner-up for Finals MVP, because we could say he outplayed you.
So,
all right, go ahead.
So, Jason Tatum had 23 turnovers in the NBA Finals alone, if you were curious. He had 23. Jaylen Brown, I believe, had, let me double check, he had 20. And then Marcus Smart had 19, and then Al Horford had 10, and Derek White had 10. Don't know how Derek White managed to have 10 in such a little amount of time. No disrespect. Meanwhile, the Warriors, Steph had 15 turnovers. That was the leading of the team for the entire series. And Draymond has 15 turnovers as well. And then Jordan Poole had 12, Wiggins had 11, and Looney had 10. I kind of just want to go into something real quick. Obviously, Steph Curry having 15 turnovers doesn't look so bad when you score 43 points a game, but when Tatum has 30 plus points a game almost, but Tatum having 23 turnovers and having a couple games where I believe he was sub 20 points almost, or close to it.
I think some games, it was quite a few games in the series.
And I also want to give a little bit of credit to Marcus Smart. I know he had a lot of turnovers, but he played pretty well still. But the big thing I want to talk about was I was a little bit disappointed with the Celtics and the lack of adjustments into play style, because clearly there was a tipping point in the series where they were just getting completely outplayed in almost every aspect of the game. And you weren't making any adjustments to change lineups or try to make something else different work. I personally want to say that I think Grant Williams and it's at the tip of my tongue. Grant Williams and Robert Williams both had great series, and when they were on the court, they were extremely effective, to the point where I'm pretty sure Robert Williams was like 70% from the field. He only shot like 30 shots, but same with Grant Williams. He had a high shooting percentage too. It's just because the Celtics have no big men. How many times do we have to talk about this? I know, okay. Yes, Kevin Looney is not bad center. But at the same time, he turns the ball over like crazy, and you have some of the best defenders on your team as the Celtics. So all I'm saying is, you feed the ball down to Patrick Williams, even Grant Williams, get some ball movement going, because you didn't really open up the post much at all, and you kind of let Draymond Green, even with almost no stats in the first few games, you still let him be way more outspoken than you, and he still allowed for him, with no points and 0 from 10 shooting, to absolutely murder your momentum. He still killed you guys down low, and you guys are roasting him all game about, oh, he's talking all this trash, he can't make a shot. You guys got killed by a guy who didn't make a shot. So, I don't know. I think that says a lot. I think that Draymond Green is a good player, but I think that if you're going to try to find a weakness in that team, it's going to start with Kevin Looney and Draymond at power forward and center. It's not going to start with Steph, Wiggins, and Clay at point guard, shooting guard, small forward. I think that if you had any chance of winning, you had to kind of utilize big men, and I don't know, I feel like you would have had a better chance. I will say, real quick, I think that this series would have been over in 6 in favor of the Bucks if the Bucks were here fully healthy. Because I think that what that showed was any team with a influx of big men, especially quality big men, would have probably ripped apart the Warriors down low. And the Celtics didn't bother to do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. You're absolutely right on everything you said. One word could sum it all up that the Celtics lacked, and it's a word that I preach: playmaking, especially in the second half. Zero playmaking. That's why they kept getting so many turnovers. That's why they kept forcing up difficult shots. That's why the ball wasn't going to where it needed to go um throughout the game. That's why Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they were essentially just taking turns, like just solely going ISO ball and failing at it. Playmaking, hell, even Marcus Smart were doing it too. Mind you, early on in the playoffs, of course, and then like toward the end of the regular season when the Celtics got hot, they were saying, "Oh, they don't need a traditional point guard. They don't need a true point guard. What's it called? Oh, they're just too good." Right there, we saw a lack of playmaking, and that's been their weakness for years. While Marcus Smart, he's had his games where he did like assume that playmaking role, and it was so really impactful. But in truth, that's not who he is as a player. He's a lockdown defender, and in truth, I think his true position is actually shooting guard, not point guard, if I'm not mistaken. Go ahead.
They should do everything they can to get Chris Paul next year.
Chris Paul would revolutionize that team.
He'd make them all play so much better, and Marcus Smart could slide down to shooting guard, or even come off the bench. It wouldn't feel as bad with Jaylen Brown staying in the lineup.
Yeah. I want to ask, do you agree with me though that literally the biggest reason that they lost the series was because Jason Tatum folded? Because the way I look at it as this, majority of these games they were competitive, especially looking at the last game, and I think that Jason Tatum was getting enough support like from the guys around him. Like Jaylen Brown came out with like 34 points in the last game. Al Horford in the second half, he came out like right out in the third quarter, was hot, was scoring, rebounding, defending, and whatnot. Like his role players, I wouldn't say great, but I'm saying he was getting enough support. The problem was they were not getting the contributions from him. Like I don't think Tatum needed to be great. He didn't need to match Steph's performance. What he really had to do essentially was I'm gonna say like be a slightly better than Jaylen Brown was in that series, because you know why I'm also saying that, Ev, because that a lot of people have mentioned the fact that Klay Thompson played really bad in this series. Like the Warriors, no matter how good we think like they were playing, that was not the best offensive firepower we've seen them even without KD. So I'm saying that with given the support that he was getting from like the pieces around him on the Celtics, if Jason Tatum just showed up, like let's say he averaged like maybe I think in the season he averaged something where like 27 points per game. Let's say he averaged 27 points per game. It was shot like 50% for the field, like, and was efficient, not turn the ball over. I think they could have easily went to a game 7, number one. Whether or not they win the series, like it would probably be close. But I think, given the support you're getting, they really could have won the series if Jason Tatum was consistently being what he was, like being good. I don't think he had to be special for them to win.
I think a couple things happened. I think that all three players, while I did say Marcus Smart wasn't bad, I think that all three of those players between Smart, Brown, and Tatum, you could even throw Horford in there for the random couple games that he had that were good. But I think your biggest problem is out of all 3 or 4 of those guys, none of them showed up. Like, none of them showed up to what their best basketball was this year. None of them played their best basketball this year on the court. And I think that was a huge issue. Of course, we highlight Jason Tatum the most because his best basketball was the best out of all of them. But I think that was a big issue. And I do think that the coaching was a big issue because, I mean, I'll throw out a couple stats for you. The leading rebounder in the entire series was Andrew Wiggins. That should tell you a lot right there of what you could have done differently. And to kind of take that a step further, Andrew Wiggins had 53 rebounds. Draymond Green was second best with 48, by the way. He also led the team with the most minutes in the series. He had 235 minutes. He had that's 10 more minutes than Steph had, and 15 more than what Clay had. So Wiggins was on the court the most too. He had 53 rebounds, right? Let me just tell you real quick. Robert Williams had 45 rebounds in 158 minutes. He had almost 100 minutes less than Wiggins. And he had 5 rebounds less than Wiggins. What does that tell you? He's getting rebounds on the floor. He's giving your team another chance.
Blocking shots.
They won the total rebound battle by, I think it was like 261 to like 256. They only won by 5 rebounds, the Celtics. If they had Robert Williams in the entire time, not to mention, I mean, him and Al Horford together, you're getting almost every rebound.
Yep.
In 100 minutes less, he almost had the same amount of rebounds as the leading rebounder. Like what? And you would have had so many more chances for Jason Tatum to miss a bunch more shots. And I'm not saying he's going to miss them all, but guess what? More missed shots or more potential to miss shots also means the more potential to make shots, which means you had more points. You could have won the game.
And also more rim protection as well.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm a little bit disgusted at how much Andrew Wiggins was able to take advantage of an open basket down low half the time from the Celtics perspective. Because I'm not going to lie, even without the Wiggins game where he scored 26, the amount of times I saw a wide open layup for Andrew Wiggins in that series was disgusting for the NBA Finals.
Yeah. I'm focusing on Jason Tatum, as you know, because I just have a problem. And one thing to just play bad, but for you to straight up look useless in the second half, I mean, your team just not gonna win. Like, to me, he straight up looked useless in the second half. Like, when the Celtics shot their way back into the games, like in Game 6. It was Jaylen Brown and Al Horford going to work. Tatum was on the bench. That's when they went on their strongest run.
The worst part is he had the audacity to walk off the court all pissed off like someone else did something wrong.
Exactly. And again, and what thinks in my mind is how you keep hunting the mismatch of Steph Curry on you, but yet you keep failing to capitalize. And the thing is, too, he wasn't like, I know I say he wasn't getting double teamed, but I want to hear from you. Make sure my eyes are working. When you were watching that series, did you really see any double teams happen? I saw a lot of one-on-one, man-to-man coverage. What about you? From the Warriors?
It gave me similar vibes to when the Bucks played the Nets last year in the playoffs, and the Bucks' approach was, go ahead, let them cook. We'll just shut down everybody else. Go ahead, let Jason Tatum cook. And they gave him the chance. They gave him all one-on-one matches. He couldn't make anything. That's what the same thing happened to Kevin Durant against the Bucks, and the Bucks admitted it. And Kevin Durant said it on the JJ Redick podcast. He was like, they intentionally smothered everybody else on defense except for me and put me out one-on-one the entire time and said, let KD cook. He won't be able to score enough points to carry the team to a win. He scored 50 and they still lost. Tatum only scored 24. I mean,
exactly, and that's the problem. Well, at the end of Game 6, I think didn't Tatum have like 13 points, something like that?
Game 6.
Or did he touch 20?
Game 6.
I can look real quick.
Let me double check. I thought he did fairly well in Game 6.
The last game, he was.
Oh no, he only did have 13.
Yeah, only 13 points. 25% from the three-point line, 33% from the field. He didn't get to the free throw line once, and oh my gosh. Let's just talk about those soft drives to the basket. Every time he tried to drive in the lane, he kept trying to force and initiate contact. And every time he missed a layup, he turned to the refs, asking them to bail him out. I saw no adjustments in his game at all.
I truly think he could have won that series if he just played like Carmelo Anthony. He didn't even have to play crazy defense. I'm saying if he just took a bunch of mid-range shots too, and because the amount of mid-range shots where he was getting at least a foot or two of space, I mean that should be easy for him. He's a good shooter. He's not trash.
Exactly. Another thing is too, especially when Steph Curry guarding him, that mid-range post fadeaway. How many times have we seen him hit that on guys taller than Steph? Like on guys at his build, his height. Like that's what he does.
And
so he's straight up folded.
If I'm Kevin Durant or if I'm Giannis, I'm sitting at home like, damn, you couldn't fold like this when we were playing against you. Like this is a joke.
It was just pathetic. And like I think what really annoys me too, because like as we know, like among the under 25 players, Jason Tatum is arguably has like the most fans. Like he's among them who gets a lot of hype. He's been getting so much hype over the years, but never held accountable for shortcomings. Like we've both said that Jason Tatum could be that guy to shoot you in the game and easily shoot you out the game as well.
He's got that Devin Booker trait. He's either going to score
Yeah.
13 or 35.
And to be honest, he really has minimum from what I saw. While he can go out there and be a prolific scorer, his impact really still does not impress me. Like he has, in my opinion, he had minimal impact. That Celtics team, while we're criticizing their playmaking and like the lack of adjustments that the coach made, like if we look at all the other series, look at how well like the pieces around him played. Like while he was able, that one-on-one style of play was able to work because the guys around him, all of them were able to pull their own weight. He had a lot of help around him, and like, he just straight up underperformed.
It's tough. I'm gonna try not to discredit Jason Tatum as much. I think that he's a phenomenal player. I think that he's going to be an even more phenomenal player. It's just I mean I can't speak for Sean, but I'll say that this is probably his perspective too. It's just when expectations are so high and some of your performances have been as good as they were, to see the way that he played in the finals was in a sense disappointing, because you had this feeling that you could see like kind of like what Luka does with the Mavericks with Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Like he could score like a couple high 30-point games and a 40-point game and do everything he can and maybe still lose the series, but it'd be like really honorable. You didn't see that though, so it was a little bit disappointing. But I'm not going to discredit the fact that he's also 23, 24, I believe.
He's 24, yeah.
And this is his first finals ever, so I get it's a process. It's just it was a rough look, and he's gonna remember it probably throughout the first half of the next year.
Yeah, for sure. Like this isn't career defining. Like we're reacting in the moment because again, we don't know what the future holds. And like before anyone goes out and starts saying, "Oh, I'm a Jason Tatum hater," yada yada yada. Mind you, yes, LeBron James is my favorite player, and I still say 2011 that was his lowest moment. He straight up folded, and if he had performed well, they would have beaten the Dallas Mavericks. So yeah, he's my favorite player of all time, and I'm putting that out there right here, right now. Jason Tatum, again, he didn't have to be special. If he played well, was consistent with what he did in the regular season, I believe they would have beaten the Golden State Warriors. But if I'm wrong, I think it would have definitely went to a Game 7 at least, and it would have been a competitive.
Yeah, you would have had obviously. You would obviously have to see the counter adjustments that Steve Kerr would have made if he started going off, but he never had to make that adjustment. I will say that one of the things that a lot of people say, whether it's NBA Finals, Super Bowl, any sport, a lot of the losing teams say, whether like coming from people who have won those championships before and lost them, they said one of the biggest mistakes they've made was not celebrating how far they came along. And I'm not saying don't have the Kobe mentality of you want to be back there again, but you should still take in the fact that no one thought you had a snowball's chance in hell of making the finals midway season for the Celtics until they started doing that meteoric rise, that crazy rise.
Yeah. So after All-Star break,
I think they should go home. It's upsetting. Obviously, work better and try to come back stronger, but acknowledge that you came a long way, and the fact that you even got that far was pretty impressive, even if it is on the back of Chris Middleton being injured and the Nets having a star that only wants to play half a year.
Yep. I also want to point this out too. I do not want to hear anyone compare Jason Tatum to Luka Doncic. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I agree that time. I agree with that. I mean, I think Jason Tatum deserves respect, and I think that comparison might be able to be made in 2 to 3 years, depending on how Jason Tatum improves. But at this very moment, Luka is better, and Luka
was literally actually carrying his team.
Luka, I was gonna say Luka's lived up to his his potential in those moments, and he's usually stepped up. Right now, he's more clutch than Tatum, but he has less around him. So I don't want people to discredit Luka because Luka's not in the final. No, he has way less, and he's way more clutch, and he scored way more points.
And against that Warriors team where they were actually doubling up on Luka, he still was killed them.
Yeah. So that's my breakdown of the finals. I think that maybe we'll take the time to do another video, maybe talking about the playoffs a little bit more in general, but also maybe breaking down teams specifically. Did you want to add anything?
No, that's all for tonight.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a absolutely fantastic day. Whenever you're watching this, fantastic week, night, whatever's going on, holidays. I hope everything is well. I hope you all have a great week. Family, sports, love, friends, whatever you got going on. And we will see you next time.
For me and you, I want you, I love you. Can I touch you, I rub, let me love you. Put my dreams to the side only cause I trust you. Girl, I trust you, I love you, won't judge you.